In this tutorial, we are going to be going over occlusion. Occlusion is how the bite fits together. In this picture, you'll see this is a dentiform model showing the upper and lower teeth. And as we move to the next slide, you'll see the areas that we're pointing to. Cusps are the pointy parts of the teeth. And the next slide shows fossa. Those are those center grooves or pits in the teeth. And there are certain cusps that fit within those fossas. Here's a view of the upper arch, and where you see the yellow dots, those are called the functional cusps, or sometimes they're referred to as working cusps. Those cusps are going to fit into the fossas of the lower teeth. You'll also notice on this picture the black dots are indicating the non-functional cusps, or they're sometimes called balancing cusps. And these are on the buccal surfaces of the upper teeth, and these parts of the teeth, or these cusps, do not actually engage the lower teeth for chewing purposes. And in this picture it shows the fossa being in the center pits of those teeth. Here's the lower arch, and on the lower arch we have got functional cusps on the buccal sides of these teeth, and these cusps will fit into the fossa of the upper teeth. And they too have got non-functional cusps. They also are called balancing cusps as well. And these are found on the lingual surface. So the functional and non-functional cusps are opposite of upper teeth versus lower teeth. And this slide shows the fossa, or the central groove, where the opposing working cusps of the upper teeth are going to fit. If we take a closer view of this, would be the upper teeth, teeth numbers 3 and 4. You're going to see the fossa is actually the fuchsia color, and the yellow is going to be the lingual working cusps. That is where the teeth should be contacting. Where you see the X's, those are going to be the non-functional cusps, and if you notice between the fossa and the working cusp, between the fuchsia or pink color and the yellow, you'll also see an X. That is an incline that goes from the pit or from the fossa all the way up to the cusp. And we do not want to have a crown or filling touch in that part of the tooth. There's other areas right where the teeth touch one another, right up where the occlusal surface spills over to the mesial or to the distal. That corner is called the marginal ridge. And doctors have got different opinions on whether or not the opposing teeth should touch those ridges. Whenever we're working with porcelain or composite resin, I personally do not like to have too much pressure placed on these areas, because that can be a spot where the porcelain or the composite can fracture. Here is a close-up of lower teeth. This would be numbers 29 and 30. And here you will see the blue or buccal cusps. Those are the working cusp, and the fuchsia color is the fossa. And again, the X marks the non-functional cusps on the lingual, and the inclines between the blue and the pink color is where we do not want to have occlusion. And again, these are the marginal ridges. If we were to take and look from the mesial, tooth number 3 and number 30, that is how the teeth fit together. Notice that on number 3, the buccal cusp is not really engaging or chewing into the lower number 30. You'll see that the lingual cusp of number 3 is definitely fitting inside the fossa of number 30. The reverse is true on number 30. The buccal cusp is fitting within the fossa of number 3, but the lingual cusp is not. Here's a close-up showing the picture of those two teeth from the occlusal view. And now you can see the working cusp, the blue for the lower buccal and yellow for the upper lingual. And the fuchsia color is where the central pits are. And you can see that the blue dot lines up with the pink dot, upper and lower. And the same holds true for the yellow and the pink. Those two colors line up with one another when you actually put the teeth into their bite. If you look from the buccal surface, you'll see that the buccal cusp of number 30 is going to be occluding with the fossa of the upper tooth, number 3. and then those areas are faded because they're tucked into that picture. The yellow dot is lining up with the fuchsia colored dot of the lower, the central fossa. Here's an actual clinical case. A patient came in and they were having a crown seated. They were having tooth number 4, the crown was being tried in. When the patient bit down, she could feel like the bite wasn't coming together all the way. It felt like number 4 was hitting high. Keep in mind that the non-functional cusp on the upper is the buccal and the functional cusp is on the lingual. Now you can see with marking paper where she was hitting. It was a very pronounced occlusal mark on the lingual surface, which is the functional cusp, which is where she should be hitting. However, she was hitting that spot a little bit too heavily. We made the adjustment, and now you can see that she's no longer hitting on that spot. But an interesting note is tooth number 5 right next to it. You'll notice it now has contact. Before, when we had that crown in, before we did the adjustment, you'll notice that it does not have a number 5 heavy occlusion the way it was after it was adjusted. So in this picture you can see the before and the after adjustment. Look at tooth number 5. The mesial marginal ridge, in this case, had contact when the adjustment was made to tooth number 4. Or number 4's cusp was holding the bite up from closing down all the way. When we got the offending porcelain out of the way, then tooth number 5 came back into occlusion. Here's an example of a patient who came in who was wearing a temporary crown on tooth number 18. She said that the tooth was cold sensitive while she was wearing this temporary for about 4 weeks. We went ahead and marked it with occlusal paper, and you can see where she is hitting. She is hitting on the buccal cusp, which is where she should be hitting. She's not really hitting on the fossa, which is fine. It's alright if they don't touch on the fossa. But notice on the incline between the buccal cusp and the fossa, there is a mark right there. That's where the temp crown was hitting. It was hitting on the incline of that cusp, and that was leading to the patient's having that tooth being sensitive. This is where she should have been hitting, and she was hitting actually where the blue dots are. In the central fossa, she was not hitting, and that's fine. If we're going to have a temporary, we'd rather it be slightly light in contact rather than heavy in contact. And so if we would have taken those inclines where we now have those X marks, if we were to take those away, I think the patient would have had a much more comfortable crown during her time she was wearing it.